We start with what is the standard form for a vertex, and notice there are two different standard forms. One where I say x minus h squared equals 4p y minus k, and the other where y minus k squared is equal to 4p x minus h. Now there's a couple things I want you to note here. Notice that h and k are always with, h is always with x and k is always with y. The one on the left where we have the x is the one being squared, those are going to be parabolas that open up or down. Those will be functions because it can be written in a form where it's y equals. That's not standard form, but it can be written in a function form. The one on the right is not going to be a function because it's going to be a parabola that opens to the left or the right, and because it's in the form where y is going to be squared, for each x I may have two different y's. So it definitely will not be a function, but that's okay. These aren't necessarily going to be functions. So let's take an example of something. By the way, if you look in your book, the book goes through examples where the vertex is at the center, and so they don't have h and k. So that's the first thing to note, that hk represents your vertex. And p is the same thing as the focal length. So that's the distance between the vertex and the focus, and also from the vertex to the directrix. So let's take an example. It says, find the standard form of the equation for the parabola with a vertex, so a vertex at 3, 4, and a focus at 5, 4. So I like to sketch these just to get an idea of what I'm doing here. And if I go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and say that's my vertex, and then my focus is at 5, 4, it's going to be something like this, okay? The focus is always going to be inside the parabola. So I'm going to do a quick sketch in blue of what I think this thing's going to look like. But I'm not sure how wide it is, and I'll get into that later. But the parabola has to open this way because the focus is always going to be inside. Here's the key things I can get out of this. Because this thing is opening left or right, I'm going to use this equation. I know that h is going to be equal to 3. K is going to be equal to 4, because that's the coordinates of the vertex. And I can figure out what this distance is from the vertex to the focus, which is going to be my value of p. From 3, 4 to 5, 4 is going to be equal to 2. So I could come up here and try to come up with all these things. I can say y minus 4 squared equals 4 times 2, x minus 3. Okay? Or just to leave it in standard form, I would say x or y minus 4 squared equals 8 times x minus 3. And that's going to give me the equation. Now, a lot of times I'm just going to give you an equation, then ask you for all the different parts of the parabola. So let's do an example like that next.